From the people who help you know your competition, InteliChek presents the Multi-Point Inspection Podcast. The Multi-Point Inspection Podcast brings you news and stories from the automotive world told in an informative and entertaining way. In a world where vehicle owners don't trust the recommendations given to them from service advisors, one company is on a mission to gently inform and educate consumers on the services their cars actually need. This is that company's story. This is the dawn of a new day.
I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for AutoNetTV. Yeah, I came onto the company in fall of '08, so we're looking at, about 14 and a half years, which is crazy to say it's been that long.
This is Bobby Cannon with AutoNetTV.
I like to tell people when I'm speaking to a corporate group or someone, regardless of whether it's someone who works for an OEM, a corporation, or whether it's a guy who owns just one shop, I like to tell people, hey, AutoNetTV helps you, the shop owner or the service advisor or the dealership, to educate your customers on the value of automotive service and repair. That's it.
If you've ever been in a waiting area while your vehicle was being serviced, there's a good chance you've seen content created by AutoNetTV on that shop's television screen.
Properly working brakes are vital to important safety systems like traction control.
Oil lubricates the moving metal parts in your engine as they rub against each other, protecting against excessive wear.
Job of your shocks and struts is to keep your tires on the road for safe handling.
Their tread design is maximized for traction on ice and snow.
AutoNetTV creates multiple videos for multiple services in a variety of styles, including with audio or without, live talent that explains the service, and even 3D graphics and animation videos. And the idea for putting high-quality videos in shops came from a night at the movies, of all things.
It's an interesting story where our founder was sitting in a movie theater one day in the early 2000s. And, as I'm sure you're aware, as I'm sure you've seen yourself, you're sitting in a movie theater and you're watching ads and commercials, things like that. And it dawned to our founder that, hey, I'm sitting here and I'm a captive audience. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm comfortable, but I have to, it's almost impossible to ignore these ads and commercials that are playing. And that idea wouldn't leave him. It kind of worked in his mind for a little while. And he eventually said, we ought to do something for waiting areas for these people who are captive audience. We should be providing some information and maybe selling something to these folks that are sitting in waiting areas. And the founders first thought about doctor's office, dentist offices, doing something in there. But they said, it seems like when your doctor tells you something or when your doctor makes a recommendation, most of us follow that. we nod our heads and say, yes, doctor, whatever you think. But where they said there's a real opportunity is the automotive industry. Because compared to a doctor, where we typically nod and say, yes, I'll do whatever you think is best, when the service advisor comes to us and says, hey, I have a recommendation for you, and I think this is best for your car, unfortunately for many of us here in the United States, there's a level of skepticism, right? We don't typically trust what they have to say, or we're hesitant to believe them. And so they said the automotive industry is the right place for us to launch a type of product that's going to educate and inform folks while they're sitting in a waiting area.
With service departments still dealing with the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, Bobby says that AutoNetTV helps to take a load off of shops when it comes to the overall customer experience.
I think it's especially applicable today because we've seen some fairly drastic changes since COVID. But today, from what I hear from dealerships, from shops, is that the customer experience is suffering a little bit because they're so busy. It's difficult for them to take the necessary time to explain the different facets of the vehicle, how it works, and all of these different parts and services, and the importance of keeping those properly maintained. They're simply not able to do it to the degree they would like to. And that's really where we step in, is we create explainer videos. We create educational content that helps the consumer understand on their level. So we do it without jargon, but we help the consumer understand on their level what these parts and services are, how they function within the vehicle on a basic level, and why it's so important. We tell them the why behind getting these services performed on their vehicle. It's funny, as I speak to technicians and service advisors who have been in this industry for decades, they'll tell me, the vehicle has gone through massive changes. It's essentially a large computer now. That's different than what it was decades and decades ago. But what they'll tell me is what hasn't changed is consumers today don't know, that they don't understand any more about their vehicle today than they did decades ago. Right. They're still uninformed. They're still uneducated. And we really haven't, the industry as a whole hasn't come up with a way to educate them. And that's where I think we fill a very nice niche, is we come in and do so in a very plain and easy way to understand, so that the consumer can finally say, aha, yeah, that makes sense now.
There's an InteliChek commercial that we run on the Multi-Point Inspection podcast where I talk about upselling your customers without hard selling them. Bobby says that AutoNetTV is based on the same idea.
We hear all sorts of things from our customers as far as how it helps them to sell. As an example, we hear everything from the customer walked up to the service desk and said, hey, the TV was just talking about this specific service on my vehicle. Can you tell me if mine has been serviced recently or if it's time to do that? They'll mention, when a recommendation is made from the service advisor, the consumer will mention that they recently, while they were just sitting there in the waiting area, they just saw one of our explainer videos talk about that specific service that's being recommended. And in reference to, yes, they'll accept that recommendation now, because they saw something on that and this makes sense. So yeah, go ahead and do it. So we're aiding sales. And I've even had some of my customers call our programming or our videos a silent salesman or a silent service advisor. And I think that's a great way to put it.
Now, this isn't an advertisement, but in the spirit of full disclosure, InteliChek and AutoNetTV have been working together for a little over 6 years.
We met InteliChek, I think it's been 6.5 years ago. Began working with those folks who've been nothing but gracious and great to work with. But we were working with one of our OEM partners who requested that we work with InteliChek to have an integration so that we could start advertising on our program just a few times each hour, the pricing information and how the dealership pricing was competitive and better than their competition. So they wanted their consumers to know that, hey, you're getting a great deal by bringing your vehicle to this location today. They wanted that information up on the screen, which was such a fantastic fit because, again, we're putting our screens in high traffic areas. So we already have these displays up. Let's put some information on these displays so that these consumers can know, hey, you're bringing your vehicle to a place that's priced competitively, and they saw value in that. And what's great is it's an easy integration so that these dealer customers, it doesn't take much to set it up, and they have full control over how often they'd like it displayed, for however long they want it displayed on screen. And it's just been a piece of cake for those folks to have it set up that way.
Now, here's the ad. Have you heard about InteliChek's InteliShare Series? We know you have if you've listened to the Multi-Point Inspection podcast. InteliShare contains all of our promotional tools that you can use to promote your favorable prices, including our Intella ads, the printable flyers that you can show off in easel displays, Intella widgets so you can show off price comparisons on your website, and Intella Media for your digital media boards that, as you just heard from Bobby, can be integrated with AutoNetTV in a snap.
So like I said, it was about 6 years ago, we built an integration into our program so that those dealers could have that information pop up on the screen. And it's just been a great fit so far, and great for the dealer customers to know, hey, we're priced competitively and we have you in mind as far as taking care of your vehicle and doing so at a fair price point.
Call 877-827-7273 or go to InteliChek.com to find out more about how the InteliShare Series can help you grow your business. Bobby says that AutoNetTV's clients were so pleased with the content they provided inside service centers that they wanted the ability to reach their customers wherever they might be.
So that's another funny story. So it goes back to when we first started the company, they were focused on the waiting areas. And so we were putting content on the TV displays in those waiting areas because most folks at that time had TVs there. Well, then we morphed into our customers saying, hey, I don't have a program that's meant to be entertaining where people wait there. My service center's a little smaller, and I'd like something that's not going to be in our ear all day. And so we built a digital menu board that was predominantly non-audio or completely non-audio, but featured 3D animations, motion graphics, really cool, essentially taking the camera under the hood to places where a normal camera couldn't go, showing the consumer the inner workings of the vehicle. And like I said, this featured heavy 3D animations with just a little bit of text to provide context to the consumer, to the person watching. And so we built that for the service counter or somewhere in the service area where they wanted to feature their services, maybe feature their pricing too, but these silent animations that were, again, acting as a silent salesman, prepping these consumers for the services that would probably be recommended at a future date. And then we did that for several years, and then we saw an opportunity where, hey, and this came from feedback from our customers, from the service centers and dealers, where they said, AutoNetTV does a great job of explaining these services and educating our customers when they're at our location. But how do we reach these customers, the consumers, when they're not at our location? What happens when they drop off their vehicle and they go to work or they go home? People are very busy today. We need to be able to reach them wherever they are. And so we built, and this is actually much more recently, we built a tool we call a plugin that allows different systems, different applications, the ability to include our content with their service. And so now we're partnering with other VARs to be able to deliver our videos to the service center websites, to their digital vehicle inspections, to their marketing campaigns, which are especially impactful because today we see a lot of consumers continue to decline services. And there's just a fantastic opportunity there because we know if a service was declined, there's a pretty good chance they did so because they just don't understand the value. They've never been taught. They've never had that explained to them. And so if we can send them content which breaks down that service and talks about which features the specific part or service, talks about its function within the vehicle, and then explains the benefits to having that performed, we've already seen an uptick in the consumer accepting those recommendations after they see those videos, that content. And I just mentioned a few spaces, the website, marketing campaigns, and digital vehicle inspections, or multi-point inspections, as some folks call them. But those are just a couple of areas where we see a massive opportunity to reach the consumer wherever they are and allow them to view that and learn about the service by themselves.
With a massive library of unbranded content, Bobby says that AutoNetTV can also produce customized content with its in-house staff.
Most of our customers are using our program as is, which features our unbranded content that we've made. And that library of unbranded content spans hundreds and hundreds of videos. We're probably up close to 1,000 now. That library also runs the gamut of service topics. So we do everything from alternators to wiper blades and everything in between, A to Z, close to. We cover virtually every service that could be performed on the vehicle, and then we have multiple videos on each of those services in different styles, and those styles can be everything from audio to non-audio, 3D animations and graphics to actually live talent on screen explaining the benefits. So we have a massive library there that our customers can use to educate on the service topics that are most important to them. And that's something we do when we bring on a customer, is we ask them, what's important to you? What services do you want to highlight? For some, it may be synthetic oil changes and batteries. For others, it may be brake pads and tire rotations. We've got content that covers all of that. But we also provide custom content. We have partnerships throughout the OEMs, throughout the aftermarket, throughout the lubricants and oil companies. We've partnered with a lot of these folks. And many times they'll come to us, they see our content displayed, and they'll ask us for one reason or another to create custom content for them, which we're happy to do. And I should mention, we build all of our content in-house. We have a team of animators who build all of these things. When we do live talent, we actually bring them to a warehouse and we shoot, script, edit, post-production. We do all of that in-house. So we have a lot of ability there to build anything and everything a customer would ever want. And so that's led us to doing all sorts of stuff, from educational content, like I mentioned, to parts photography for some of the OEMs. We've built commercials and ads for others. We've even done learning modules and even built interactive environments for training and things like that. So we've gotten to the point where we tell folks, we can do anything you want. So just tell us what you would like to have, and we can build it for you.
And AutoNetTV prides itself in speaking the language.
When you work with AutoNetTV, you have the advantage of a team focused on automotive. We speak your language. We know the industry. We know where the EGR valve goes. You won't need to translate for us or devote extensive internal resources to script writing and storyboarding.
So I had a chicken and egg type question for Bobby. Do you train your talent, or do you look for people who already know the automotive industry?
There is a little bit of training that goes on. We're fortunate in that we've been able to hire some folks who are intimately aware of the automotive industry, who have been in the industry for some time now. In addition, we also employ a council of members who can give us feedback on the way we describe things, the way we build things. So we've got a nice team who provides us with feedback on that, but we've been fortunate to be able to hire some folks who are very aware of how all of these things work and the automotive industry in general. But we're constantly reading, learning, and we have quite a few resources throughout the industry now to help us make sure we're doing things the right way, explaining things the right way. And there are several states throughout the U.S. that have pretty stringent standards on how you explain service, how you describe certain parts of the car when it comes to service. So we make sure we adhere to those. But yeah, our team's very well versed in the automotive world, and that helps us, because that's what we preach to our customers, is that we speak automotive. Whereas, yes, your average ad agency out there probably doesn't. We only work in the automotive industry, so that's our forte.
And Bobby says that AutoNetTV has a similar mission to that of InteliChek, which is restoring trust between vehicle owners and service departments.
I think we've done a great job of giving them a platform to be able to provide messages to their customers that, hey, we can take the stigma out of the service advisor consumer relationship, that trust gap there, and we can build on that. We can educate these folks and bring that together. And I think we've done a nice job of giving them the ability to customize their displays to something that's super engaging and helpful and informational. And I think that makes a difference over time. I think consumers can see the effort. And I think for some folks, these displays are something that's really new and really cool to feature these 3D parts on a TV screen and to see how these different things work. And I think our American attention spans gravitate to screens, right? And video and movement. And so it's been really cool to see how that works and how, and this is from the service center side, hey, we're trying to give you something that's going to help you have a better experience at our service center. And I think the consumers are responding to that by asking for more services, by accepting their recommendations. That's really cool to see. We're never preaching doom and gloom in our videos or on our programming. We're simply looking to inform and explain these things that typically the consumer just doesn't know about. And I always like to mention to folks, look, let's be honest with ourselves. Automotive services are a grudge buy. A grudge buy is something that we know we need to buy this thing, but it's the last thing that we want to spend our time or our money on it. You know, and so in that regard, it's similar to going to the dentist or the doctor. Yeah, we realize, it's something I need to do, but I don't want to go to the dentist. I don't want to go to the doctor, but I know I need to. Well, using that as an example, if automotive service is like going to the doctor, well, then AutoNetTV and the content we provide is the spoonful of sugar to help that medicine go down.
I'd like to thank Bobby Cannon at AutoNetTV for the interview. You can find the Multi-Point Inspection Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps with the algorithm thingy. Executive producer for the Multi-Point Inspection Podcast is David Swan. It is written, produced, and narrated by me, Brandon Barnett. This episode's featured music is Offerings by Reveille. InteliChek. Know your competition.